Hello viewers, Super GT here. Welcome back to another edition of Beating the Fastest Car. And we're doing it around this week's daily race B, around Red Bull Ring in Group 3. And the number one best strategy of all time to beat the fastest car, which is the Huracan, is to be the Huracan. So, not too complex really, is it? Just be the best car, and then you have the best chance of beating the best car. You know, don't say that I'm not intelligent, because that is freaking clever. That is really clever. So this is the first race, obviously, because it's at the start of the video. Unless you watch videos backwards, I don't know. Now, okay, lap 3, getting ourselves a half a second penalty. We did actually catch up with this guy, so it kind of came at a bad time. Just making the most of the slipstream as much as possible. The guys behind are quite a long way off. 3.5 seconds, so we managed to pull away quite quickly. Now look at this, right? This is my final lap, and really nice through turn 1. Really nice on the brakes into turn 2. And you do have to really judge your braking quite precisely when you're in the slipstream. It's a lot more difficult these days because the slipstream range is a lot larger. The suck zone has grown in recent updates. And coming through here, this is the split timer at the end of the second split. Look at that, 4 tenths up on a 29.2. 4 tenths up. So this could be a 1 minute 28, which would be near enough top 10 pace in the world. Yes, it is slipstream assisted, but still not bad pace in the Huracan. So we didn't win the race, but one way to beat the Huracan is to be the Huracan. That's number one strategy. But what we're going to do here is take a look at the number one time in the world. Sorry, the region. Let me get that correct. So it's a 28.4, and I'm going to put all the data on. So let's have a look at what he does. So braking just before the 100 board. And the thing about the Lamborghini Huracan is that you really have to get it to rotate. You see that actually how sideways it's getting. It's tricky to get the car to really get the full pace out of it. And again, braking just before the 100 board. You know, it's fairly okay to drive this car at a good pace, but to get absolute maximum speed out of it, it is very difficult because you have to kind of drive it sideways, a bit like the Audi R8. It's a tricky car. Through here, you can see it's actually sliding and using that power to power out. That's the thing about these the rear or mid-engine cars. You can get the back to rotate, and you can get on the power really early. As long as you can control the slide, then you can really gain a lot of speed coming out of the corners, and it's very noticeable when you're behind it in a different car how quick it comes out of the corners, and that's one of the main strengths I think of this Huracan. Up to the final 2 corners, braking just before the 50 in 4th gear. So things to note are the gear choices, the lines, the braking points, and exactly where he positions the car in terms of track limits. Track limit abuse is something you can think of very strongly when it comes to Red Bull Ring, and I've done it many times as I go here for my practice lap or my qualifying lap. And what we want to look at here is the times on the right hand side. So this happened around the Sardinia track. I did a couple of laps, and eventually you really get some good consistency, because here I did 5 laps in a row within pretty much 2 tenths of a second. 5 laps in a row, 2 tenths consistency. So that kind of shows you that I got used to the track. Unfortunately, I backed out and I was dilly-dallying around a little bit, and then I missed the timer for this race. Bit annoying. So what I did, I just went back into time trial, and this is really strange. Sometimes this happens, right? You just go and set a quick lap. So this is my quickest lap. So I did a 29.2 in that session you just saw, but here I'm going to show you an even quicker lap. For some reason my recording glitched at that entry, but you're just braking for the 100 board into turn 1, taking the path of least resistance up and towards the next corner. Again, braking just before the 100 board, and that's what you're looking at. I'm looking actually at the line on the ground and braking just before it, maybe 10-15 metres before. And through here, through turn 2, through this hairpin, you're kind of coasting to settle the car down, gradually on the power and then fully on the power, and that gets the car out of there very quickly indeed. So a little bit wide of the apex at the next turn, and then a bit of a slide on the exit. So this car is rather hairy to drive. There's no two ways about that. Just before the 50 board, turning in whilst braking, get towards the apex, coasting as well through the centre of the corner. Lots of curb use, so this is something, again, lots of track limits to take note of. Basically, for the most part, as long as you've got two wheels on the red and white curb, then you're okay. Through turn 1, as long as you've got two wheels on the yellow sausage curb or further inside, then it's okay. And again here you see two wheels on the red and white, two wheels on the red and white on the exit here as well, so you really can run quite wide on a lot of these corners. Coming up to the line then, 29.1, so it wasn't even that clean a lap, it was quite messy, but I improved somehow. I really don't know how that works, maybe because there was no pressure on it, I just went for it and didn't really care, and actually turned out to be my best lap. 29.1, 7/10 of a second away from number 1 in the region, so not too bad. But this is what we came to the video for. Can we beat the Huracan? Let's try and beat it in something different. And I'm going to try and beat it in the Mercedes, which is, well, as of New York, the number 1 manufacturer in the game. Not necessarily always the quickest car, but it's a solid car. It's a very good car at most tracks. The one thing I've noticed about it is it has really good traction, and that's something you'll notice coming out of this hairpin here. On the brakes quite late. Actually, it has very good brakes as well. Out of here, it's just so controllable. It doesn't slide about. Through the corners, it doesn't drift, doesn't slide. On the exit, there's no drama. It's very easy to drive this car, so if you want a good car that's controllable, I'd definitely recommend the AMG Mercedes, because it really is just planted. It's just very easy to drive. It's a very good car. And we're up against the big boy, the Nissan GTR, which I've seen fairly high up on the leaderboards as I almost go to the back of him. This GTR has actually done fairly well. It's got good straight line speed, and straight line speed is actually very crucial around Red Bull Ring. You've got 3 fairly long straights here, and therefore it does matter. It's through this sector here, through the longer corners where that GTR might suffer, but it is still a very solid car. And of course, from pole position, he's got the massive advantage of just being at the front, and it's often quite tricky to overtake a car that is good in the straight. As long as this guy doesn't mess up the corners, then there's not a lot I can do. You see he's trying to break my toe already. I'm just going to follow him completely wherever he goes into turn 1 again. One of the main things when you're behind someone, as I go a little bit too hot, so I haven't quite judged it correctly there, the main thing is judging your braking points differently if you're in the slipstream, because of course you're going quicker in the slipstream. You have to brake slightly earlier. So he skipped a lap there. This is lap number 3 now. He's on a red bar connection, so he's gone back to 1997 and revived his dial-up. Oh, actually no, he's gone back to three lines now. Still a bit laggy, a bit confusing as to his exact pinpoint location, and it's obviously not ideal having to race against someone who's a bit jittery. But lap 4 now, he's gone back to a 5-bar green connection. He's obviously got on the phone to Wi-Fi connection and sorted it all out. So right now, good exit out of turn 1. Can I possibly go for this move? Again, the GTR is very quick. I'm barely just keeping up with him in the complete slipstream. Going into turn 2, into the hairpin, later on the brakes, we still meet that apex, and then we swing through the corner. Don't overshoot, get the job done. That was actually a really clinical move. I was surprised, to be honest, that the car didn't just carry on going into the excess tarmac. It actually really met the apex quite nicely in the slipstream, late on the brakes, and it still met the corner. So it kind of shows you how good the brakes are on this AMG Mercedes. But into the lead we go, 5 laps in the race, so 1 to go after this one. So now it's roles reverse. Can we keep Mr. Zivic's Dofra behind for just over a lap? And again, it's going to be a case of trying to keep that GTR at bay because of its high top speed. So just try to break that toe a little bit, even if you save half a tenth, or if you lose the person half a tenth behind you. That can be crucial on the run up to turn 1 or turn 2. So you've got to try and do everything you can to try to break that toe. Often people will just follow you, so there's not much you can do. So here I'm not going to move across. I'm just going to stay exactly where I am. 29.7 across the line. So our 3 laps from lap 2, 29.4, 29.5, 29.7, so good consistency. As we exit turn 1, again, just keep 2 wheels within that yellow sausage curb and you're okay. Yeah, I think you can keep 2 wheels on the curb, the yellow, and you're alright. But just make sure they don't go all beyond. So looking at the radar, he went to my left hand side there. I forced him to go to the outside, and again just on the brakes, right on time, meet the apex, on the power gently and then fully, and we get away with that wheel spin. So that was a good solid defence there at probably his best opportunity to overtake me at the end of the longest straight into the biggest braking zone. So we've got that out of the way, the most difficult part of the defence of this race victory, but we still have a fair chunk of corners left to go, albeit hard ones for him to overtake me on. It's really going to come down to a mistake from me now for him to be able to have a chance. So this can be a crucial corner here, as it does lead into a medium-ish straight going up towards the final 2 corners of the lap, but I am over half a second ahead now, so there's no point in worrying too much. I'm just going to meet my braking point, and remember I'm not in the slipstream now, so I can kind of go back to the braking points I'm used to from practicing, and I did do a couple of laps in this car just before jumping into this race, just to really get used to the exact braking points. And there we go, a victory in the Mercedes AMG, the GTR coming through in second, so it's very possible to beat the Huracan in something different. Of course it does depend on who's in the lobby and your grid position, but there we go, it is possible. 64th win for Mr. R4M Shadow GT, ramming for money as always. That money is rolling in right now. We're going to go again in something a little bit worse than the AMG, the Ford Mustang. Now this car is decent, it's not, you know, it's not going to set the world alight. It might do, well no it's not. It's actually, it's distinctly average, or maybe a bit above average in Group 3. The guy ahead, very close to getting a penalty coming out of turn 1 already, had a big moment on the exit, just kept two pixels within the yellow sausage curb. And the main thing we're trying to judge here is exactly where we should brake. I've braked about 150 metres before the corner. Turns out that's a little bit late, but sometimes you don't have to meet that apex there. You can still carry a lot of speed without meeting the apex and get through there okay, but it is still better to meet the apex, of course. So the main thing, I think, when you're not in the lead, when you're starting in this kind of position, ideally you want to settle down and just pull away from the people behind just by getting in the toe of the guy ahead. The guy ahead should be the quickest guy in the race because they're on pole position, but it's not always going to be the case because, of course, some people can qualify really well but then they can't carry that pace through into a race, and then some people the other way around are normally better on race pace than I am in qualifying, so I should hopefully be able to move forward, but I am in the Mustang. It's not going to be easy up against the Huracan, which is the go-to car for this race. Again, braking on the 100 board there, normally braking about 75 metres before the corner. In the slipstream, again, braking earlier, so about 100 metres before the corner. That turned out to be about the right place. Up into turn 2, lap 2. Very close indeed to behind him. He's actually missed the apex. You see they're going to get a cutback on him. Not quite enough though. Going to tuck into the slipstream. This is going to be quite close down into the next corner, into the braking zone, which is normally just before the 100 board. So we're going to look out for that and brake a little bit earlier, just to account for the slipstream. And of course it's downhill, so it does often mean it's a shadow realm entry point, as people completely misjudge their braking points. Just trying to put him off here by going to the inside. Don't really have an intention of overtaking him there because it would have been a savage lunge of the century. But just trying to put him off his game, just give him something to think about. So the person in the lead is really just trying to focus on just churning out fast laps. If you can distract them from that, if you can be in their mirror, put them off, make them make a mistake, then you're doing a good job. And I'm right on his tail now, so he must be thinking about the defence. But he is doing a good job so far, I must say, of keeping it all together and not turning into a total bottle job. So end of lap 3, he had a really good final section of lap 3, again moving across to try to break the toe a little bit. 29.6 on that lap, he's done a 29.2, so a very quick lap, especially without the slipstream through turn 1. Just going to stay in, are we? It's very, very close indeed. Maybe 1 pixel away from, we were 1 pixel away from not getting a penalty, I think. Very, very close, but we do get the penalty. So again, making the most of the slipstream, try and build that gap to the guys behind, who are now going to be right on my tail as we come down towards the next corner. So that's the reason why I'm on the right hand side, to cover off the people behind, force them to the outside, still meet the apex, and then through the exit of the corner I have retained second place. So now it's really a different race now, as I was potentially going for that race victory. It was going to be hard to always do that, but now it's going to be a defensive race, holding off the horde of Huracans behind. Can we do it for just over one more lap, or will they send Super GT to the Shadow Realm? Let's find out as we come through the second to last corner, clipping the airbags nicely. Again, out to the outside, keeping two wheels on the red and white curb, and you're good. Doing the same here. The leader's had a big moment there, sliding across to the right hand side. He's lucky that he didn't end up perpendicular to the barrier and go in at a horrible angle. He's lost maybe half a second there, so I'm back in the slipstream and potentially back in the race on the exit of turn 1. Has he gone wide there? That is potentially a penalty. He's gone more than 1 pixel wide, and yes it is, look at that, 0.5 seconds. Taking a quick look back behind as well, half a second behind are the people behind, so they're still within in with a shout. So this is going to be interesting, because he's going to serve that penalty just here. Are we going to be able to get ahead? It's going to be quite close. 0.5 seconds isn't very long. In fact, it's actually half a second long. Precisely 0.5 seconds is half a second long, so it's not very long. So just a quick maths lesson for you there. On the exit of the turn, we do get the job done. I went a little bit too late on the brakes, and it cost me on the way out. I do have the inside line for though for the next corner, and we just stay ahead. On the exit, he's right on my tail, and he just loses control. I think he just dipped 2 wheels onto the gravel, and he spun himself out, and he's tumbling down the order from what was first now down to 8th place. So an absolute disaster on the final lap for the leader of the race, but that means someone else is going to profit, and that is going to be Mr. R4M, Shadow GT. He's going to come through for a sensational victory. Get in there, Lewis. Fantastic drive, mate, as we come across the line to salvage an amazing victory. There we go. Is it possible to beat the Huracan around the Huracanville? Yes, it is. Just practice, get some consistent laps down, learn your braking points, and then get good, and you'll do it. And maybe choose a decent-ish car. That's all from me. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.